Hello, everybody. It's Tracy from Kangoo Club Kicks, and we have a special episode of What Has Changed Your Life tonight. And my guest is Meghan, and she's related to me. She's my daughter. And the reason I'm interviewing Meghan is I don't know if you've seen lately on my Facebook and Instagram. She is raising awareness and also raising funds for type 1 diabetes. So I'll tell you a little bit about why before we start chatting. And Meghan is a type 1 diabetic, and she has been type 1 diabetic since she was 15 months old. So she was very young when she was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. And out in Alberta, the University of Alberta, they've actually made some breakthroughs with the research for diabetes and for a cure. So currently they have figured out a way to use stem cells from our body and create new cells in the pancreas to create the pancreas to make insulin again. So that's kind of a brief synopsis. We're going to go into a little bit more in depth about what type 1 diabetes is versus type 2. And we're going to talk to Meghan about her experiences living with type 1 diabetes and why this initiative is so important to her. So welcome, Meghan, to the show. And I'm glad you're here. You're going to laugh because she's literally upstairs.
Yes.
Literally upstairs.
I am on the second floor.
She's on the second floor. So, Meghan, we're going to talk a little bit about what type 1 diabetes is versus type 2. But first of all, I just wanted you to chat about what is it like being a type 1 diabetic?
Well, my experience with it is I don't know any different. Obviously, I was diagnosed very young. So I literally don't remember a time where I didn't have my pump attached to me. I started injections when I was 1, and then and I think I was on a pump at 2. So I was very young when I had a pump as well. So for me, like it's ups and downs for me. I have really good days and I have really bad days with it. And that comes with like a whole bunch of different chronic illnesses. So
Correct.
Type 1 is just another one that has those ups and downs. Like some days I'll be like on the ball and I will not have a single high or a single low and I will just stay in range. And then other days I am everywhere. Sometimes I'm high, sometimes I'm low. It really depends on what I'm doing. Those days are not so fun. I don't love those days.
No.
They're not my favorite, but it's learning like how to control and how to avoid having as little of those days as possible. As much as I would love to have 0 of them, that's just not obtainable, unfortunately. So it's keeping it in check. And obviously I go to diabetes clinic to help do that. And get my A1C done and just making sure that I am generally as healthy as I can be when managing.
So for everybody that doesn't know the difference, so diabetes, type 1 diabetes is when, so there's 2 types. There's type 1 and there's type 2. So type 1 is when your pancreas, which is located here in your body, just right over here, it has cells in it. They're called islet cells. And those cells are what creates the insulin. So why is insulin important? So insulin is important because if your pancreas doesn't make that insulin, the insulin it's actually a hormone, and it acts as a bridge to go from taking the food that you ingest, carrying the nutrients from the food, from using the insulin from the food to the cell. And that is how your cell gets energy. So when your pancreas doesn't make the insulin, in type 1 diabetics case, they do not make insulin at all. So whatever reason your body has attacked the pancreas, that is that organ, and destroyed those islet cells. So when you can't make that insulin, then you have no way of getting the food that you're ingesting to the cells to give them energy. So what happens when somebody is not aware that they're type 1 diabetic? They're going to experience symptoms like weight loss, right? Because now your cells are starving for energy and they don't know how to get that energy because that bridge of that insulin is gone. The other thing too is they're going to start to drink a lot, because what happens is your glucose from the food that you've eaten starts to increase in your bloodstream. So what does your body do? It needs to get rid of that high blood sugar. So it starts to drink a lot, right? It wants to flush it out. If it doesn't do it that way, and so when you drink a lot, then you start to pee a lot, right? So a lot of urination. And then if your body can't get rid of it that way, then what'll happen is it will start to breathe it through your respiratory system. So one of the common signs of a new diabetic is they have a very distinct smell to their breath. And I will attest, when Meghan was 15 months old, that that's exactly what happened to her. And that is how I knew that she was a type 1 diabetic, and I knew to take her to the doctor as soon as that all those, at the beginning it wasn't so much, because she was not, just turned 1, she was starting to walk, so she didn't, losing weight as a toddler is normal. So I didn't think anything different of it. And the urination was, I just thought she was, getting bigger, and, those things happen, right? So I didn't actually realize that that was what was happening to her. So it wasn't until I smelled that sweet breath that I knew that she was diabetic and had to go to the hospital. And so that was when we went to the doctor, got the blood test, and Meghan's blood sugar came back when she was born, or 15 months, at 32.7. So a normal blood sugar is 4 to 8. And so that was really high. She was almost like coma state. So that is type 1 diabetes. Type 2 diabetes, what that means is your pancreas still makes the insulin, the islet cells still work, except the problem is they can't handle the amount that's ingested. So they're not able to cope with the amount that's going in, so they can't function at 100%. So that's kind of the difference between type 1 and type 2. And I'm just noticing that my computer decided to make a little glitch there. So Meghan, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Perfect. So now that you guys know a little bit about type 1, the difference between type 1 and type 2 diabetes, we're going to go into a little bit more. So Meghan, why don't you tell everybody the different ways that you can get insulin in your body?
Sure. There's 2 main ways usually for type 1 diabetics. Usually it's through an insulin pump, or it's through an injection, so like a little needle that you have. I use insulin pumps. I think they're a lot more efficient and better for me. It's obviously different for every diabetic. Some people go on pump and they don't like it and they go back to injections. Some people love the pump and they never go back to injections. So
this is a reminder.
So basically, ever since I was 2, I've used an insulin pump. So that's what I'm most comfortable with.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know a lot about injections because I never did my own injections. I was too young to do my own injections. So that was your job, not mine. All I know is I did not like injections. I was not a fan.
No, you were not a fan.
I was not a big fan of the injection. But I don't expect many 2-year-olds to be a fan.
No. Meghan actually we were at Markham Stouffville. That was where the pediatric diabetes clinic that we went to is. And Meghan was one of the youngest patients there that went on the insulin pump. We actually, back then the standard was you had to be 8 years old to go on an insulin pump. And we learned very quickly with the injections with the toddler that was not something that was was sustainable. Her sugars were too high and low, high and low, high and low. It was a terrible cycle. So we actually pushed for Meghan to be on an insulin pump at 2. And so she was one of the youngest patients at Markham Stouffville at the time to be on an insulin pump. So yes, we fought for that. Yay!
It worked because I did get it.
The thing, what is the thing you like about the insulin pump the most?
Well, with insulin pumps, it's generally fast acting insulin. Like there's different kinds of insulin that you can take. Like there's fast acting, there's like insulin that happens over a long period of time that you take like during like the day, like once you wake up, you take a long acting, and that acts as like your basal. That doesn't generally work too well with me. I don't really understand it as well as I would understand just taking insulin and it working within 20 minutes. So I think the fast acting works a lot better for me because I think of it as like I'd be scared of forgetting in the very beginning or in the morning because I'm half asleep and I don't take my basal, and then it just ruins the rest of the day for me because I don't feel so good.
Right.
And it's also like when you have long acting, it's a lot of planning, and because you have to give a certain amount at the beginning, and planning, as much as I would like it to be one of my strong suits, is not.
You're a teenager. What?
No,
teenager?
It doesn't work. It doesn't happen in here. It doesn't happen in my brain. No. So I think it's much easier and a lot more, I don't know how to word this, but like it's a lot easier for me to just have it bolus for it when I'm doing it instead of before, like way before I eat something.
Right.
Because even now, sometimes I bolus after I eat something.
Right.
So long acting insulin just doesn't seem like a good idea for me, at least.
Exactly. So for those of you who are wondering what language Meghan is speaking right now, she's speaking a little bit medical because one, she is my kid, and two, she's grown up with diabetes her whole life. So that is normal language for her. But for people that aren't, they're going, what in the world is a bolus? Meghan, do you want to explain what a bolus is?
Okay. Yeah, I will. I guess I should have done that.
That's okay.
Yeah. So bolusing, like when I eat something, or drink something or whatever I'm doing, since my body doesn't react with insulin when I inject or I ingest food. So now what I have to do is I have to give it from an external source. So my pump or an injection. Because unfortunately my pancreas doesn't work.
No.
So that I just basically do the job of what my pancreas normally would do. So I put however many carbohydrates I'm eating into my pump, and I put my current blood sugar. So if I
there, can you show them what the pump looks like so people can
hold on, let me grab it.
What it is, because the pump. So she has 2 different things. Well, actually 3 different things. She has a glucometer, which is the finger prick, and that's how they tell the blood sugar. She also has a insulin pump, which is what she was just talking about, that gives the insulin to the body in order to create that bridge that I was talking about earlier, to get the energy from the food into the cells. And then the third thing she also has is what's called a Dexcom 6, and that is a continuous sensing glucometer, basically. And so that's what, those are the 3 items that she has that helps her manage her diabetes. So she's going to show you her insulin pump now. So the thing I like about her insulin pump, when she was younger, it used to have a cord attached to a little syringe in the pump that would give her the insulin. And now it's just a site and it's all like Bluetooth. It's amazing.
It's so much easier. I lost so many sites to that cord.
Yeah. She didn't like the cord, just saying.
I wasn't a fan. Was not a fan of that one either.
We like being on the there are different types of insulin pumps, and depending on the type of person you are, you can access all those pumps and figure out what is right for you. And for her, it's the Omnipod, which is what she's going to show you right now.
Yeah.
And so I don't know, can you guys see that? I hope.
It'll be a bit hard to see.
Yeah.
Because the light's directly shining on it.
So tell everybody a little bit about your Omnipod and what it does.
Sure. So basically, my Omnipod is cordless. It's a cordless insulin pump. And it can sit on different sites of the body. So mine is usually on my stomach, but you can have it on the arm, the leg. And then when you're a kid, I think you can have it also on your butt, which is where I had it for a couple years.
Many years. Yes.
And basically it's got all the workings of what like our old insulin pumps were about this big probably.
Yep.
And it's only about this big, I'd say.
Yep.
And it just sits on there. It's got all my insulin in it, and it lasts 3 days. So I have about 200 units to last me 3-ish days, maybe sometimes a little less than 3. Yeah, so it does whatever I say. It does exactly what I say, and it keeps a basal. So in the internal workings of the pump, I have a basal rate set up. So it just gives me little dosages, yeah, of insulin throughout the day, depending on what hour it is, what I'm doing. So and that stuff can all be adjusted.
So if anybody has any questions, feel free in the comments to just shoot us a question if you're not sure what we're talking about and you would like some clarification. Make sure that you comment in there and we'll get it and we'll definitely answer that for you. So the two different languages we're speaking, one's a basal rate and one is a bolus rate. So a basal rate, like your normal pancreas, you and I that our pancreases work, we get a little bit of insulin 24/7. The pancreas just automatically does that. So what then happens is when we eat food, your pancreas is like, oh, you ate. Okay, so I need to give you more insulin to cover the food, to get the food, that energy into the cell. So what happens is you get an increase in insulin. Now, this is what normally happens in the body for us. So that's how our blood sugar stays between that 4 and 8 range that we have as normal people. So for type 1 diabetics, what they have to do is they have to artificially give themselves a little bit every couple of minutes for 24 hours. So that's what's called the basal rate. And then the insulin pump also gives a little bit of a bolus. So when they eat food, you've got to take the amount of carbohydrates you're ingesting, and then you have to, based on your age, your weight, and a bunch of other factors, you have to give a certain amount of units of insulin in order to cover the amount of food that you've ingested. So that's called a bolus of insulin. So that's what those two languages are. In case anybody's going, what in the world are they talking about? That's what we mean. So that's the beauty of the insulin pump, because we can program it. It's basically a little computer. Right, Megan? It programs, and we put in programs there for daytime, for nighttime, and it does its thing.
You know, I would have to be a mathematician if I didn't have something to calculate that for me. I wouldn't be able to do it.
No, it's a pretty smart little device, and thank goodness we have it, because at the beginning it was difficult. It was very difficult. So next thing we're going to go over, and I want Megan to share with everyone how it feels when your blood sugar is higher than 8. Let's say your sugar gets to be like, in the teens. How does that make you feel?
Well, it doesn't make me feel good. It basically, like a lot of symptoms that I experience is like my breath gets really sweet. And you can taste it almost. Like I know when my breath is beginning to have sugar in it. I can like almost taste it. It's very strange. And I get really dehydrated because I'm excreting a lot of fluids, obviously. And I'm trying to drink as much as I can to compensate for what I'm losing. And then when I start to go really high, my stomach begins to hurt. So like it's not like a like I ate something stomach ache, like it's a totally different feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Um and I also find that when I go high, like my bones and my joints become very, very sore. And I begin to like lose energy very quickly. And I you can see in my face when my blood sugar is very high. It's very hard to hide. Um, and like I just become very lethargic, almost like it's because it's essentially feeling sick.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't want to do very much. You can tell it in my mood, you can tell it in how I'm acting, how I like you can just see it. You can see it written everywhere. Anything that I say, do, mood, everything. You can just
Yeah.
tell when my blood sugar is and when I'm not feeling right because no one's happy when they're sick.
Yeah. And the other thing is is it not hard for you to process things?
Yeah,
The confusion?
it can like I can try to do like a class or something and I just don't over my head. Um and I think that's partly because of like I'm not feeling well and that's I'm trying to continue on with feeling like absolute garbage.
Yeah.
um which is it's distracting to say the least.
Yeah.
And it almost sometimes feels like your body is literally fighting. Like it's a very strange I don't know quite what to equate it to
Yep.
because it's so many different symptoms that are so unlike of
Part of
any other thing that I've ever experienced.
Mhm.
Um, so if you imagine like the worst headache and the worst stomach ache and like you couldn't move your joints and you're just in the worst mood possible, that's about what I would equate being a high blood sugar to.
Yeah.
It's not a fun time.
No. And I know when you were younger, when you weren't able to articulate what that felt like, you would cry quite a bit, and
Makes sense.
yeah, and your stomach ache was always my cue that your sugars were high because you would get a stomach ache and you would be in pain, and then you would so those were things I looked for when you were little, when you weren't able to articulate what it was that you were feeling. So that was symptoms of that I would observe of you as well.
Yeah, the stomach ache's the worst one, and it's
Yeah.
unfortunately my most prevalent symptom usually.
Yeah. Yeah. You get bad stomach aches. Oh my goodness. Terrible stomach aches.
Oh yeah,
Now, what
not
about when your blood sugar goes low? Because you and I have had severe lows when you were
yes.
little. And you want to talk a little bit about the symptoms and then talk about that experience?
Yeah. So basically low is the other end of the spectrum. So I would be like 2 to 3, sometimes even lower. Like I've been under 1 before.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so that's generally the range of low.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and basically what it's almost like I am intoxicated,
Yeah.
but I haven't had any alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've heard diabetic stories of where they were looking to buy something and the person thought they were intoxicated.
Yep.
So they actually didn't get any help because they thought that they were so drunk out of their mind.
That's
Which
very common. Very
it's
common.
very common. Because it's very hard to function properly under the circumstances. You can get super dizzy, like you can feel nauseous sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it's different. It's very different from when I'm high and I'm nauseous, and I'm when I'm low and I'm nauseous. It's different. It's again, it almost feels like I've drank and now I'm hungover almost.
Yeah.
It's like both of them at once.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and sometimes like you can see like double vision, and you are like starving almost,
Mm-hmm.
even if you just ate, it just feels like you haven't eaten in days almost.
Yes.
So I've experienced almost eating the whole cupboard because I was low. um, and stuff like that. So it's just really hard to function properly. I slur my words.
Yeah.
And it and I become very sloppy in my movements. Not that I'm the most elegant as I am normal, but I definitely become, more sloppy. My movements are a lot more, off balance, because there's a lot of my body functions are currently fighting me.
Yeah. And there's that processing problem, right? Because you're so drained. And so when you're trying to do something, if anybody is tired and they're overtired and you try and do something and you just can't get it, it's like almost equating it to walking through muck, right? You're
Yeah.
trying to go, but you can't go. And that's kind of what having hypoglycemia is. And when you were little, you ended up having a seizure.
Yes, I did.
You did, because of a severe low blood sugar. So that was a 911 call that we made, and you ended up in the hospital for about a week.
I did.
And do you remember anything about having that seizure?
I remember the beginning of it.
Yeah.
And then I remember waking up once it was done. Apparently I was awake in the middle. I have no memory of it.
Yeah.
All I remember is I was actually at my babysitter's at the time.
Yeah.
And I was eating lunch and I had a Caesar salad. A little ironic now, not so funny in the moment. I had a seizure eating a Caesar salad. And I just remember just crying uncontrollably.
Yes.
I didn't know why. I wasn't sad. I was just sobbing.
Yeah.
And I think I would have been like 6, 5 at the time.
5. Yeah.
I was 5.
Mm-hmm.
And I was old enough to figure out that I wasn't sad and I didn't know why I was crying.
Yeah.
So I that was a red flag right there. I just started crying. And then I remember my babysitter wasn't 100% sure what was going on, and neither did I, because I was 5.
You were little.
Fair enough. And so she said, I want you to go lay down. And I said, okay. So I went down and I think I just passed out. I didn't know. I don't remember anything. I don't remember the ambulance ride over. I don't remember any of that. And then I woke up in a hospital bed, which I was like, okay, this is where we're at now.
Yeah.
So something must have happened. And then basically they explained to me that I had a seizure because my blood sugar went so low. I actually don't know how long I was not responsive, or not like fully conscious.
I can tell you.
Yeah, how long was that?
I can tell you. So you probably had seized on and off for close to 8 hours. So at the time,
a long time.
It was a long time. And so at the time they were actually debating about sending you down to sick kids, because at one point when you woke up, they had said to you, oh, who is this? And they pointed at me and they said, who is that? And you actually said, I don't know. So they were worried about your brain function because you had been seizing on and off for quite some time. So you had to have a spinal tap done to make sure there wasn't an infection. That test was done. Because when you came into hospital, your blood sugar actually was 4. It was actually like 4.3. It was considered normal. So at first they didn't know if it was a seizure caused by low blood sugar or not. So that's why they had to do a bunch. That was ruled out, and you came to, and your memory started coming back and things like that. Then we kept you at your local hospital and we didn't have to ship you to sick kids. But it was definitely an eye-opener for us as parents, and a very scary experience indeed, when your child has to be rushed to the hospital in that kind of way. It's pretty scary. So for us, it was lots of tears, lots of
Yeah.
What could I have done differently? And as a parent of a child with diabetes, the one thing, and Meghan can attest to this as well, the one thing that and I'm in medicine, like I'm a nurse, for goodness sakes, you can do the exact same thing every day in a row and her blood sugars will be different, right?
Absolutely. 100%.
100%, right? Because as you know, Meghan, right, the sugars can be affected by hormones. They can be affected by exercise. They can be affected by stress. They can be affected by having your period, for God's sakes. Like
Anything.
anything. Like it's just, lack of sleep, too much sleep. Like, so, we as parents were very hard on ourselves. We should have known better. But the reality is diabetes doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
Right.
We also didn't have like a lot of the features that some of my older pumps had with the insulin on board. So that's, I think what you guys said was the problem was we bolused.
We over-bolused.
That's what happened.
That's what happened.
But we didn't know how much insulin, because there's no timer, or there wasn't a timer at the time on approximately how much insulin was in my bloodstream.
Correct. Yeah.
And we do have it now. We have it on the newer pumps. But when I was 5, that just was not available at the time. So unfortunately, that's what happens.
And Stephanie says, hey, glad I could catch you all. Nice of you to join us, Stephanie. Thank you so much for watching this episode of What Has Changed Your Life. And tonight we are talking with Meghan, who happens to be my mini-me. And she is talking about her experience with type 1 diabetes tonight and what that means. So thank you so much. And Stephanie also says that her husband is 41 and has been type 1 since 11 years old. So he gets what we're talking about. And so do you, Stephanie. And so Meghan, tell me about the newest thing that we got for you, which is the Dexcom. Tell me about that and tell me why that's life-changing for you.
For sure. So since I was born, basically, I've had to do blood sugar checks through my fingers. And as my life goes on and stuff happens and I mature, I get busier. I get a lot busier, and diabetes sometimes goes on the back burner because I have so much going on that sometimes checks are not what I'm thinking about at that very moment. I'm thinking about what my college class is doing, what I have to get done for this week, all kinds of stuff. So adding that extra stress of having to check my blood sugar at least 4 times a day in order to keep government funding was really, really hard. And so basically the Dexcom, what it does is it's another site that goes on your stomach. And it keeps taking in blood little by little, keeps checking. So it does the checking for me. So I just basically have to press this button and I see what direction. It's really hard to see. But it's showing me what direction it's going in. So it's showing me if I'm going up or if I'm staying current or if I'm going down. And it shows it to me on a graph. So that way I can accurately change things if I need to, or if I need a correction, I can do that correction really quickly. So it's just become really efficient. It just makes diabetes management more efficient, because in the beginning it was not. Sorry, what?
I said more effective.
Oh yeah. Yeah, more effective. It's a lot easier. I didn't mean to cut you off there, honey. No, it's okay. It's a lot easier. I love it. And it also gives my fingers a break because my fingers are, especially my right hand, which is usually where I did my finger checks before. There was a point where like my skin was almost gray because of the amount of times and just the consistency I was doing it. My fingers didn't love that.
And that's where
they're not a fan.
You start losing people with type 1 diabetes, because of the amount of times they have to check their sugar per day. You start to lose feeling in your fingers because you're you're pricking, you're hurting the nerve endings so much because you're finger pricking like multiple times a day, 6+ times a day is how many times you're taking it with a regular glucometer. So the Omnipod, the Dexcom, it replaces the finger sticks, so she can get a break from having your finger poked all the time. And the nice thing is, as Megan was telling you, is it has a graph, so you can actually physically see if her sugar is going up or going down, which is awesome because when you take it with a regular glucometer, all you're taking is the one prick, and that's a moment in time. So you don't actually get the information of whether it's going up or going down. So the Dexcom, I keep saying Omnipod, I don't know why. The Dexcom is really good because this tells us where it's going. Where is the sugar going? Is it going up? If it's going up and going out of range, then we can do something about it before it gets really high, right? Yeah. Why is it important to have your sugar in normal range, Megan?
It's super important. It's because when your blood sugar is very high, very low, it causes your body to start, like, especially if it's high, your body has a lot of sugar in it, and that can be very damaging.
Correct.
So things like, I believe your liver can suffer a great amount. If your blood sugar is high all the time, you can have a huge amount of your other organs that are working be damaged because of it.
Like your kidneys as well. Your kidneys,
your kidneys
takes a big hit with sugars that are out of control.
Yeah. And I would like to keep my other organs working.
I know.
I've already lost one. I'm not looking to lose another.
Exactly. Oh, Stephanie says her sound isn't coming through. Can anybody else? Can everybody else hear us? Because we can hear each other, but just let me know in the comments if you guys that are on here can hear. Like send me a message on the comments just so I know that people can hear us. I'm hoping that you can. Stephanie, did that sound change? Could you hear us before and now it's changed? Well, we'll she can hear it now. Yay.
Oh, okay.
Awesome. Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you for that. Now we're good. Oh, yay. So yeah, so the having high blood sugar and low blood sugar is actually, you're absolutely right. It's very damaging to our organs, which is why it is so important to have your sugar within that 4 to 8 range if you can. And again, being diabetic, it's a little tricky, as we discussed before, about keeping it within range, but we do the best we can with the tools we have, right?
It's certainly a full-time job for that one.
It's a full-time job, 100% full-time job, and it's a 24/7 job.
That's true. I've woken up in the middle of the night and had to go downstairs and eat. Well, I remember one time that I was so low that I just stumbled my way down to the kitchen and then I fell asleep drinking a juice.
It's kind of scary at the same time.
Stephanie? Well, I was very unaware. I did not know, and I just knew I was hungry and I was half asleep. Yeah.
And Stephanie says her husband used to always prick his finger for years, but 4 years now he's had a pump. It's a lifesaver, isn't it, Stephanie? It is such a lifesaver. Honestly, I think it's the best invention ever, is having an insulin pump and the Dexcom. I think it's life. What's that?
I said I would agree with that statement.
Yeah, we think so too. We think it's awesome. So, Megan, now the exciting part of our conversation about yes, Stephanie, very scary, very scary. I know. And those highs and lows are, very scary.
Not a fun time. Not a fan. No.
So now let's tell everybody about the interesting research that you and I came across not that long ago. And what is it that you're doing right now to bring awareness and raise funds for diabetes research. So tell us about this new thing that we just figured out the other day.
Okay, sure. So basically what happened was over at the University of Alberta, they have started some very, very interesting diabetes research. So they had been searching for a cure for quite a number of years now. And they just had a breakthrough, I want to say, in the last 2 weeks, where they're injecting stem cells back into the host. And they're doing it on mice right now. It's not been tested on humans, but the mice are actually being cured of diabetes through the stem cells. It's almost like it's resurrecting the pancreas. It's like,
yes. Yes.
And it's waking up again. And it's beginning to produce its own insulin cells, which I would like. So as soon as I learned about this, I was obviously very excited because who doesn't want a working pancreas?
Yes, exactly.
I would like one. And so what I've been doing is on all of my social medias, almost all of them, I think. On TikTok, I've been posting every single day a different trend or something that I want to post, just bringing awareness to the research to try to bring it to more people's attentions. And so that, we can speed this process up with some more funding.
Yes. Because we want to go to human trials.
I do absolutely want to go to a human trial.
We want to go to human trials. Yes.
And that's what the hope is the hope is within, they said approximately 2 to 3 years is when human trials is going to start. So I'm trying to get a head start on this to get into a human trial at ASAP.
So the reason why the stem cells is so important is because that's your own body. So currently right now they have what's called the Edmonton Protocol, and that's been in place for quite some time, for years. So what the Edmonton Protocol is what they're doing now currently, and I don't know if they're still doing it. I think they've kind of moved away from it. But what they used to do was you used to have 2 cadavers, and you would take the islet cells from those cadavers and you would put them into the donor. And the problem with that is you would have to take anti-rejection medication for like the rest of your life. And they only did that procedure on people that were very brittle diabetics, had neuropathies, meaning no feeling in their legs, had all kinds of kidney failure and all kinds of symptoms. So this stem cell research is your own body. And that's amazing because you wouldn't have to take those anti-rejection medications as far as they can tell. And it's your own body, right? Putting it back into your body and creating those islet cells again. Like, it's massive, right?
Yeah. There would be no need for any kind of transplant or anything like that, which is really nice.
Well, that's the thing, right? And this is Stephanie. She says, oh my, that would be amazing. It's got to be rough to have diabetes. I wish my husband could have a working pancreas. Yes. Yes.
Don't we all?
Human trials would be absolutely amazing. Our daughter is 11 years old, and when she was 4 months old, he had gone too low and seized out to have to go in an ambulance. It took him 6 hours to realize he had kids or a wife. It was very scary. Oh, that is scary. And I've been there.
Experience.
I get that. When Meghan said to me when she had her seizure that she did not know it was me, I lost my mind. I was totally ugly crying. It was awful because that's the worst thing, right? It's so scary, so scary. So this is huge, right? This research is huge. Now, Meghan, tell everybody your social media, where they can find you and help support you in your plight to bring awareness to type 1 diabetes and also to raise funds. Can you tell everybody where to find? What is your handle?
My handle, you will find me on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, all at Fruity Luigi.
Fruity? Is it
Fruity at .Luigi.
Luigi?
Yeah.
Okay, so is it all the same?
Yes, all the same over
IG. Okay.
across all my platforms. That's where you'll find me.
TikTok,
Um,
IG, and any other platforms that you're on?
no, not that I use. So
Okay.
those are the ones that I am active and I am using to accomplish that human trial goal. Um,
Freedom.
and
There she is.
there I am. And basically, I always, every single video that I post, every Instagram always has the link to the where you can donate for U Ottawa.
Yep.
Or sorry, not U Ottawa, University of
Alberta.
Alberta. Wrong place. Sorry,
Yeah.
wrong place. Different university. So it always has the U Alberta link, so you can go right there. And
There it is.
I
You
set the
Alberta.
link. Oh, there it is.
Yep.
So I set the link so that it's really easy to find, and it goes right to the donation page to help fund their research. Yeah. So hopefully we can get that kick-started because I'm just curious. I'm also just very curious to see how this goes in a human.
I know. And me too.
It's very exciting to figure out what it actually does.
I am too. And the thing is for us, when Megan and I have twins, so Megan is a twin.
Yes.
And so they are 19 tomorrow. So yay, happy birthday to them. And then how did I get this old? No, I'm just kidding. So for them, when they were born, we actually kept their stem cells from their umbilical cord when that happened, when they were born. So not even knowing about anything, we just thought, you know what, I'm adopted. So I didn't at the time have a family history. So I didn't know what cancer was in my family. I didn't know anything about my genetics. So we felt that if, because at the time that we saved their stem cells, there were certain types of cancers that could be cured by those stem cells. So that's why we ended up banking them. And we have banked them for the last 19 years. And so what we're thinking, what I'm thinking and hoping is that that blood that we've kept, those stem cells that we've kept from her when she was born, is what will be that they could use to potentially cure this. So I don't know whether that's something that can happen or not. I'm not sure, but it's certainly something that can be available. And I'm really hoping that
it's something we have an option to.
Right. And Stephanie's asking, will the trials come only to Canada first, then the States? You know what, Stephanie? It's so new that I'm not sure. I'm not sure at all how they're gonna roll it out and who's going to be a candidate. So that is information that I will definitely get to you. We have reached out to the University of Alberta and we have reached out to the team already. So as soon as I hear something from them, then I will certainly definitely pass that on to you. And your next question, would my husband be able to fly to Canada to be a human trial? You know what? I can certainly, if we get a hold of the team, I will certainly ask that question because yeah, that's something that, yeah, definitely I'll ask that question. So if anybody wants any more information about diabetes, the place you want to go is, for Canada anyway, I apologize, I don't know the US version, and it's diabetes.ca, www.diabetes.ca. So I'm going to put that into the comments here. So if you want any more information on diabetes, you're very welcome, Stephanie. I will definitely keep, and I hope you're feeling better. I really hope, I was so glad when I got your message today that you were feeling better because you worried me. You were worried. She was very sick with COVID, sadly. So I'm so glad that she's better. So
yay, that's good.
Keep getting better, Stephanie. Keep getting better. So more info about diabetes in Canada. I'm just trying to show you. Yes, there you go. So if you want to know more about type 1 or type 2 diabetes, go to www.diabetes.ca. That's the Canadian version. And I mean, if you're in the States, it's going to be the same information. Yeah. So you can go to either or and get all your diabetes information. So I want to thank my guest tonight, my little beauty, Megan. My little mini me, and thank you for sharing about your experience being a type 1 diabetic, and signs and symptoms and all the wonderful information that we gave everyone tonight. And I hope that we get on those human trials. I'll definitely keep people posted. Fingers crossed. Right, Megan? Fingers crossed?
Yes. I need those things to come out ASAP. And
exactly.
as soon as I can get in one, I will be in one.
Yes. Well, we're gonna look at them for sure and see what they have to offer. But follow Megan at Fruity Luigi. Now, Megan, did you check? Did I put your Fruity Luigi correctly?
Yeah, you did. I see it.
Okay. So again, I will put that back up. Here is Megan's handle, Fruity Luigi. Go follow her on IG and TikTok. Yes, TikTok is for our age group too. I'm on there. The Gen Xers are taking over. Just saying.
Honestly, I think everyone at this point is on TikTok. I've even seen ladies in their 80s.
That's okay. We're all on there. We're taking over.
Some of the best content is from those ladies.
Exactly. So fruity.luigi is what I meant to say on IG and TikTok to get the information for the type 1 diabetes awareness and to raise funds. And Stephanie, thank you. I'm glad you're feeling so much better. That's awesome. So glad.
Hooray.
So thank you, everyone. I know we went a little bit over a half hour, but this was such an important topic and such a big topic that it had to be more than 30 minutes. So
yeah,
I thank you all with me. I thank Megan again for joining me and everybody watching. And thank you for watching another episode of What Has Changed Your Life. Have a great night, everybody. And don't forget, on Sunday, this Sunday at 12:15, we will have the WW Gays, Jean-Luc and Nick, come on the show and talk about their inspirational journey. Thank you, everybody. Have a great night.